It's Saturday the 7th of December in the Vendée Globe, the skipper's 27th day at sea. And today we take a look back at the race so far, and then the tracker at this current moment, the leaderboard, and also then the PredictWind routing options for Charlie Dalin, who's out in front, and also an update from Conrad Colman, who's had a couple of issues over the last few days. It's a great time to recap the race so far, and there we can see they leave Les Abdelons, cross the Bay of Biscay, round Finisterre, and then down the coast of Portugal and Spain. It's then past Gibraltar, and then Madeira Islands, and they carry on there past the Canaries, and you can see this huge compression that happens in the fleet when they hit the light winds, and the fleet is very, very compact at this point. They have a couple of moments with these light winds, and you can see the different routing options. Of course, Jean Le Cam just going across to the east. And you can see this is when Sam Goodchild and Thomas Rouillon had the lead. And then it's past the Cape Verdes, and this is where Jean Le Cam and Conrad Colman rejoined the main pack, and they started to make their way west in the South Atlantic. Again, with some very light wind areas and different options paying and some losing. Across the equator, and then towards the coast on South America, and then it's using that shortcut that they took across the South Atlantic, which paid very well for them, especially the leaders, and this is where the fleet got far more strung out, and you can see there out in the lead we've got Charlie Dalin. And then the next waypoint, of course, was the Cape of Good Hope, which they'll be approaching shortly. And we can see in the centre of the screen there Sam Davies, because we're on the Initiatives Kerr website. So we'll zoom out a little bit so we can see more of the fleet. And here they come up to the Cape of Good Hope, and then it's into the Indian Ocean. Let's zoom out again. And we can then see this developing low pressure system, which they then have been riding for the last few days. And it was in this that Charlie Dalin made the greatest gains. And you can see here it is developing here. It catches up with the leaders. And at this point, as Charlie Dalin is going past the Kerguelens, you can see he is on the eastern end. And this is where he separated away from Sébastien Simon and has got the lead that he currently has as he approaches that Antarctic Exclusion Zone. Moving to the tracker on the official Vendée Globe website, we can see that the deep depression has now moved far further southeast as we predicted earlier, and the next depression is actually really quite strong now if we look just to the east of the Cape of Good Hope. Charlie Dalin now has a 290 nautical mile lead over Sébastien Simon. And you can see there Jérémy Bayou in 5th place is over 1,000 nautical miles behind. If you actually look at the top of the screen, we've got some footage from onboard Holcim PRB with Nico Lundven, where as the depression moved southeast, that he got caught in no wind whatsoever. And so that northern option, while it kept them out of the strongest winds, has actually put them into a light patch. And so that is the problem they are contending with. Not much change in the 0600 ranking, with the top three made up of Charlie Dalin, Sébastien Simon and Ewan Richomme. As we scroll down there, we can see Nico Lundven only averaging 9.97 knots over the last 24 hours as he fell into that light patch. A little bit further down there, we can see Boris Herman. I know we have a lot of Boris fans on the channel, and seeing him over 1,400 nautical miles behind the leader isn't great, but we do know in the Vendée Globe anything can happen, and we're only a short way into it in reality. Richard Gladwell, sailworld.com's New Zealand editor, has again been doing some routing options for Charlie Dalin using PredictWind. As we can see, he takes a gybe at the ice exclusion zone, and then there's quite a few jibes to do along that area where the ice exclusion zone is a little bit further north. Then it is using that strong wind beyond the longitude of Cap Lewin, the southwestern tip of Australia, and then into that developing low pressure system towards the longitude of Tasmania. And this is what will drive him all the way through to the longitude of the South Island of New Zealand and into that Pacific Ocean. Conrad Colman hasn't had things easy over the last few days, with electrical problems a few days ago and then yesterday when a sail went over the side. But he did manage to retrieve it and things could have been a lot worse.
So yesterday I made a terrible mistake. Right. That was my big Jenica off the side of the boat, completely in the water, when the boat was doing 20 knots in wind speed of 35 knots. It was just a huge mess. This is a big sail, the second biggest that I have on board the boat, and it's the one that lives on deck normally. And I knew that last night I was going to go through a front and have to jibe. And I was concerned about my ability to move the sail around from one side to the other in really strong conditions. So I guess I made a shortcut and I left it tied up really well on the deck, but on the leeward side, so that when I jibed, it would be on the windward side. But the boat was going so fast that the waves on the deck were so powerful that it shredded the bag and dropped the sail in the water. And so when I heard a banging noise, I went up to investigate. My heart sank. I thought that it was going to be impossible to get this back on board the boat. But I slowed the boat down. I got ropes around the sail. I started dragging it on board with winches, and then little by little managed to get all of this back on board the boat, and then safe inside. And thankfully, the sail stayed furled up for the most part, and it doesn't look to be too damaged. There's a few little holes, but things that I can fix myself. And so, yeah, this is what it looks like. It's a big mess at the moment. But I'm confident that I can get it back. But that was a terrifying and frustrating moment, and I was convinced that it was going to be impossible to get it back.
Thank you for watching today, and especially all of the comments and feedback you've given us on this channel. We really do appreciate it and try to answer as many of the questions that we possibly can. Please do subscribe to our channel using the button down here. And also take a look at sailworld.com and yachtsandyachting.com for all the latest news from the Vendée Globe and everything else in the world of sailing.